Hey everyone. So one of the things you just heard about was new tools in the pipeline. And in this next session, we're going to hear about a new tool in the pipeline for cancer. So how many of you have heard of CAR T-cell therapy? I'm guessing given major global health interest in this room, many of you, although I'm not seeing many hands. So for those of you who don't know, this is a type of cancer immunotherapy that involves genetically modifying a patient's T cells to help them fight cancer. But speaking of access, another big issue we've talked about today, this is not widely accessible. And in this next conversation, in partnership with Caring Cross, we'll explore how two groups are partnering to bring this innovation to low and middle income country contexts. So I'd like to welcome Jenni Cardamone, Vice President of Partnerships at Devex, to lead that conversation. Thanks, Jenni.
Thanks, Catherine. Good to be back. Okay. I am thrilled to be joined today by Dr. Boro Dropulić. Did I say it right? All right. Who's the Executive Director and co-founder of Caring Cross, and Kevin Kyle, who is the CEO of Germfree. So let's dive right in, Boro. Can you give our audience an overview of Caring Cross, your mission, what you're trying to accomplish, knowing that a lot of people here did not raise their hands?
Yeah, thanks very much for inviting us to share our story today. Caring Cross is a nonprofit, and we're really focused upon developing innovations in order to reduce the cost of CAR T-cell therapies and stem cell gene therapies to make them affordable and accessible. Currently, some of these therapies are curative for diseases like leukemia, lymphoma, multiple myeloma, sickle cell disease, and beta thalassemia, but their cost is very high. $375,000, $475,000, $2-3 million just for a single therapy, putting it out of reach out of many around the world, not sustainable anywhere in the world, and really restricts access, particularly for underserved populations and those in low and middle income countries. Caring Cross is comprised of a group of individuals that have been doing gene therapy, working in the gene therapy field for over 30 years. And what we do is we develop innovations in order to lower the cost and improve access of these therapies. And the way that we do that in three ways. First of all, we develop low-cost manufacturing processes to manufacture these cells and the materials at a tenth of the cost that is otherwise out there currently. Second of all is we collaborate with companies like Germfree to improve the distribution models on how these therapies are provided, particularly decentralized manufacturing and point of care, which significantly reduces the cost and improves access. And thirdly, we actually make the therapies ourselves. We make generic versions of CAR Ts for leukemia and lymphoma, for multiple myeloma, and we also have in the clinic a CAR T-cell therapy for a one-time therapy for HIV. So these are all clinical candidates that are presently in development.
Thank you. Kevin, I'd love to hear more about this partnership that your two organizations have forged. What are the unique strengths you bring to this, and what is your vision for it?
Thank you, Jenni. So the partnership started over 3 years ago, and it started with some good teams that are aligned on a mission coming together, and the mission being to deliver better, more equitable access globally to these therapies. Starts with great people on both sides of the fence, I do believe. And we've been able to pair the therapeutics and the promise of the future of therapeutics with a delivery model. And so I'll tell you a little bit about what Germfree does. So we build what is called a modular clean room. And so if you think about that in an area perspective, it's an area about twice the size of the stage area here. And think about it like a mini factory. And I like to talk a lot about Lego blocks. And so a Lego block that you can drop anywhere in the world that is particularly tuned to the CAR T cell therapies that have been developed by Caring Cross. They include the full workflow, they include the environmental monitoring systems and the IT systems that bring it all together to give you the quality control and the regulatory controls that are necessary to meet global standards.
Thanks. Boro, I know there's a partnership in Brazil, and I'd love to dig into that a little bit more. Can you tell us what's happening there?
Yeah, we have a partnership with an organization called Fiocruz, which is the large biologics manufacturer in Brazil that's supported by the Ministry of Health of Brazil. And that partnership is to tech transfer all the knowledge, the materials, and how to make these products so that Fiocruz can make them locally for a tenth of the cost that it costs in the developed world. And what they will do is then provide these therapies to the Brazilian public health system at little or no cost to the patient. So this is a way that we're tech transferring, not only providing the technology, but also providing these candidates so they can get them into the clinic and then get approval locally.
And Kevin, can you talk a little bit about the mobile clean room units and the quality control and compliance aspects of that?
Yeah, so in 2 sessions ago, Dr. Abdelmohsen spoke for a moment about the cost of achieving regulatory compliance and the massive investment that's necessary to achieve that. And one of the things that we've tried to do in our collaboration and in the detail of the design that we've gone to is to get to where we can do carbon copies such that we can drop the same Lego brick in different areas of the world with the same IT systems that can be remotely monitored such that we can control the regulatory compliance, such that we can enable better access. Because cost, and Boro's mentioned it a couple times, cost is a key factor here. And we've got to come up with more intelligent solutions. I think we are coming up with a more intelligent solution to control cost while still meeting the regulatory requirements. Those are absolutely necessary. So we'll get better quality, we'll get great compliance. We're going to do it just in a better way.
Boro, can you talk a little bit about some of the early learnings from this work in Brazil and how this is going to help you scale and grow this partnership?
Yeah, it's gone actually very smoothly. They've already come to visit us a couple of times, and we're already in the tech transfer. This happens in stages, right? And we're very excited that we will use this as a blueprint because we're in discussion with other organizations around the world that also want that similar technology transfer. So we're developing all the detailed standard operating procedures, all that, so that it makes that tech transfer very, very easily. And we were very happy with the collaboration just because on the other side with Fiocruz, highly competent people, very dedicated to bring these therapies to their patients in their country. The only other thing I wanted to mention is that point of care is very important for countries like Brazil that are very, very large and have geographically very diverse areas. And it's very important that these therapies are made locally because there's a cost savings and there's an improvement of accessibility when you make them close where patients come for care.
And also the production timeline, right?
Actually, great that you reminded me. 7 days, actually, to produce it. So a patient can come in with cancer and 7 days later receive the therapy. And that's very important for patients with advanced disease because some of these current therapies, the lag times are so long that if you have advanced disease, you don't get the therapy in time. So having them made locally, timely, is very important for patients with advanced disease.
Go ahead, Kevin.
And Jenny, I was going to jump in and say that collaboration matters a lot, and specifically with the folks at Fiocruz, wonderful people, very mission-focused organization as well. But coming together face to face with them, I think, was one of the learnings that we did well with. Because there are localization issues, there's electrical wires, there's bridges that have to be dealt with to get things in place. But when you build the relationships face to face, and I've heard in the conversations today, there's a lot going on in the world. Let's all be very honest. There's a lot going on in the world, but we have to collaborate. We have to come together and with a positive vision and make sure we give the handoff to that next generation. I've got a 16-year-old daughter. I want to give her a great handoff. And so I just encourage you all to be positive. There's a lot of good going on in the world and a lot of great people that are fighting for it.
I love that message of hope. I know my son is watching this right now, so that too. How are both organizations coming together to measure the impact of this, not just in terms of the countries reached, but patients, cost savings, all of the different aspects? How are you measuring partnership?
Well, I think the only important measure is the number of patients that are treated, right? And all the other metrics are derived from that. So the number of patients that get improved access as a result of these logistics and these generic therapies, that's our primary measure. Yeah.
Number of patients.
Yeah.
And is there a certain goal you have in mind? What is the vision looking forward?
Well, I mean, we want to deliver this globally, very, very, very simply. And as a call to action, I think a big part of the way that we go there is public-private partnerships. You've heard it spoke about since very early this morning up until, one presentation ago. We've got to come together. Carmen Villar a few minutes ago talked about, maybe a couple of companies and some NGOs and some governments. And Boro, you and I have been in 3 or 4 countries in the last couple of months, and we're going to be in another one on Friday. We've got to come together as a global community. We've got to deliver the hope. We've got to bring solutions out to the world, and they exist. They're ready to go.
Yeah, what's wonderful about the collaboration with Fiocruz, it really creates a very strong blueprint for us that we can then just use everywhere. And we are in discussions in India and other, Africa, other places of the world that are very interested in taking these technologies so they can produce these medicines themselves. And it's not simply about producing the medicines. There's an innovation component, right? So once they start manufacturing, they can start to innovate themselves. And so that's very important as part of the economic equation to distribute and these technologies and knowledge so that the countries can then go on and develop new generations of therapies themselves and then contribute to the global ecosystem that way as well.
Thanks, and I'm glad we ended on such a positive note. And if anyone wants to learn more about this partnership or how you can get involved, please come and talk to our panelists afterwards during networking. Big thanks to Caring Cross and to Germfree for joining us. These events wouldn't be possible without the support of our partners. Thank you.
Thank you.
Jenny.